This $500 ATV might be our biggest challenge yet. This is what you call a piece of junk. It is rough, very, very rough. So the seller stated that this was up for sale for about a month. Nobody would touch it. I think he said a couple people look at it and they were like, yeah, forget about it. It's that rough. I guess he's had multiple friend mechanics look at it. They couldn't figure it out. Multiple actual real mechanics look at it. They couldn't figure it out. And he said it was time to sell it. So it was up for $1,000. I offered $5,000. He said come grab it. So we got this $3,000 machine for $500. I figured we'd take the risk and see if we could figure it out. Right now the seller said it does not start up at all. You put a battery to it, nothing lights up, nothing turns on, nothing, I mean nothing at all works on this thing. So we are starting from scratch. We know nothing about this machine. A seller got it on trade, so he really knows nothing about it either. But his goal was to flip it, basically get it running, driving, and then sell it for more than what he paid for it. And he just gave up. But today's goal is to get this one up, running, and driving by the end of the video. When I bought this thing, he was like, good luck, man, you're gonna need it. So I am up for the challenge. It should be pretty fun. But this is a 2005 Yamaha Grizzly 660. And like I said before, in running good condition, these sell for like $3,000 on Marketplace. So it's not a bad machine if it's running. Comes with a winch. Tires aren't terrible on it. Still some tread left. Plastics are rough. Looks like it's been sitting outside for years and years and years. Graphics are peeling off. Big hole. The plastic's there from the exhaust. The pipe is wrapped. So I'm guessing this thing overheated a couple times. Racks are all rusty. I mean, there's a lot of rust. CV axle boots ripped there. It's pretty bad. You can see the winch was pulled out, never put back in. I'm guessing that doesn't work at all. Looks like it got hit a couple times, front bumper's bent in. And then wait till you see underneath the seat, everything's cobbled together. Alright, little walk around here, take a look underneath the seat. You can see it does have a battery in there, but everything's kind of cobbled together. It looks like they extended the negative line going to ground. Guessing to fit a bigger battery in. Probably wasn't turning over at all. Solenoid's just kind of hanging here. Looks like it got hot and melted at one point there. That's good. I'll take a look at the air filter once we get in the garage. But right now, you turn the key, nothing happens. I hooked up a jumper to it, nothing happened. So, it should be interesting. Yeah, she's rough. It does pull over. Feels like it has compression. It's a little crunchy in there. Almost too good of compression. I can't even turn it over. So hopefully it's not locked up. Yeah, it turns over a little bit. Just really, really high compression. So let's push this in the garage and start tearing into it. Alright, one good thing is it rolls pretty easily. Alright, let's see if the rear brake works. Actually does work. Front brake doesn't. That's completely locked up. Doesn't push in, doesn't move at all. Let's see about this brake. Oh yeah, that's working. Alright, let's take a peek at the oil. Oil's right in here. Let's see how bad that looks. If there's anything in there. I'm guessing this thing smokes a ton. Oh, it's pretty clear. but there's definitely some in there. Looks like it was all the way filled up. Yep, filled up all the way. Oh, that's good. So maybe it's not burning oil, unless the seller just topped it off. All right, take the seat off right away. Kind of go through everything with this. You can check and see if there's an air filter in it first. What do you guys think? Oh yeah, there's one in there. It's dirty though. It's really dirty. Bunch of mouse poop in there. Looks like a big spider crawling right there. Yeah, that's seen better days. So there was a mouse nest in here at one point. Alright, we'll clean that out as best as we can. Let's try hooking up a battery and we'll see what happens. One negative. We'll go right to here. One to positive. Down to here. Turn it on. Huh. So nothing lights up when you turn the key on. What the heck? Is there a kill switch? Oh, this light works. So that switch is for the light. Alright. But nothing works with the key. Nothing's lighting up. See if the winch is working. Oh, winch is working. Did the screen turn on? Ah, winch is working. Alright, winch works. I can hear something click when you do that. See if the electric start works. Nope. Choke override. Yeah. There's a couple switches over here. What are these for? Turn this on. Nothing's turning on. Lights work? Nope, so we're not getting power, I don't think, to the ignition. I can hear something clicking over here, almost like one of the relays is bad. You guys hear that? So I'm turning it on and off, and it's just clicking. So we're getting power. The fuse box is right here. Let's take a look at that. Let's see if we can get that open. Alright, let's see what we're dealing with here. Alright, we've got the headlight. We've got the ignition, terminal, four-wheel drive, signal, backup. So really, the only one that would do anything is this one right here, this 10 amp fuse. We'll take that out and see what's going on. That could be the problem as to why this thing's not turning on at all. There's also one here for the solenoid. Fuse box, we're going to the second fuse here. That's ignition. Fuses look a little crusty to me, but doesn't look broken. So we'll stick that back in there and then take our multimeter, go through it. Let's go through each one. We should hear a beep. Good. 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 All right, all fuses are good. You can hear the beep on each one. Another fuse by the solenoid. Let's check that one out. We're gonna get these disconnected here. So there's two fuses. I think one's a spare. 30 amp spare is good. Check the other one. This is a 20 amp. Oh, yeah, I think that's blown. Aha. Oh, maybe not. Is it? No, I don't think it is. I thought that was blown at the top there. Doesn't look like it. I thought that bridge was disconnected, but we'll check it with the multimeter. Yeah, that's good still. All right, let's check it. Yep. All right, well, it's not the fuses. I kind of figured it wouldn't be, but we have to check everything to make sure. All right, let's see what the connections look like here. So that's going to there. Let's check this one. Connectors there are all in. Nothing's pulled out of there. Let's see if we're getting positive to any of these brackets here from the solenoid. So 13.3, 13.3. So we're getting voltage going out. And that's going to the red wires. Plug that back in. Now we'll see if we're getting voltage here. .3. 13.3. So we're getting them going out to there, to the red. That looks like it goes back. Oh, something's turning on. Okay, we just got it to light up. I don't know how that happened. I don't know what the heck happened there. I think maybe moving the switch. Oh yeah, look at that. You move that little bit, it was like coming on and off. So there must be like a short in there, but we've got power now. So looks like we've got 5,657 miles on it. That's a lot. 4x4 switch. Let's just see if that's working. Oh yeah, that's working. Cool. 2-wheel drive. All right, that's all working. Lights. All right, cool. Lights are working. Electric start work. Nothing. Nothing at all. Alright, so unfortunately, electric start doesn't work. The hand warmers are working, so this must be a hand warmer. The grips are heating up really fast. So everything's working except for electric start. Does it need the brake on? No. Well, we kind of need the electric start to work in order to start this thing. the pull start is really hard to pull. So let's try to figure the electric start out. So we should have power when you push that going down to the solenoid, and it should trigger. Yeah, you can hear it. Watch when I wiggle this. See that? I'm wiggling these wires just a little bit, and that's what you see on the screen. See that? Alright, we're gonna work at that for a little bit. Something is finicky in there. Alright, let's recheck this out. I don't know if the solenoid is junk or what. Alright, so I think I see the problem. So two of the connectors in there are kind of pulled out. So you can see in here, see how these connectors are up a little bit higher. You can push those in quite a bit. So I wonder if those are just loose in there, not making good contact. So it might just be like a really bad solenoid, because it's just pulling out through there. So I think that might be the problem, but we're gonna connect it up and see if we're getting power to the blue and white here. And then they're straight blue. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is check and see if we're getting positive to the blue and white coming into the solenoid. We should have positive going there. So hook negative up, and we should see positive going in with the blue and white wire here. And you can see we do have positive going into the blue and white. Then when we click the button, we should see negative going to the blue. So let's check that. Now when we click the button, we should see negative. Yep. So we're getting negative and positive to the solenoid. That should be triggering the solenoid to turn on. So I'm guessing the solenoid is just bad because those connectors on the inside must not be connecting correctly, because you don't even hear it click at all. So we are getting power going in, negative and positive, which should be activating that solenoid, and it's not. So it's none of these relays. These relays are for the different switches, like the clutch being held in, which it looks like it's bypassed with tape. So you can start this thing in gear. And then the neutral switch or the foot brake. So those are all the different relays for those. So these are all good here. So it's got to be that solenoid. So what we're going to do is cross the terminals on the solenoid and see if it turns over. It looks like somebody got to this point because I see a melted terminal there. There we go. There we go. Alright, so that's turning over the engine. So it's definitely the solenoid. That's the problem. So I don't think I have a spare solenoid for it, but we'll look around. At least we can start it by crossing the terminals on the solenoid, because the pull start is really hard to pull in. So the next big question is, do we have spark when we cross the solenoid terminals? So we'll check that in a little bit. Let's check and see if this thing has any gas in it. Yep, there's gas in it. Let's start taking off some of these plastics so we can get to the spark plug. The air box off. Before we take the gas tank off, let's take a peek and see if it's getting gas out of the petcock. Alright, here's the petcock. In order to take the gas tank off, you have to take off the little knob here. That pulls away from the petcock, and then you can take the tank off. So before we go any further, I got the gas line off here. Let's see if any gas comes out of it as we turn the petcock to reserve. And we'll see what that gas looks like too. Probably pretty dirty. Let's see. Here we go. Coming out. It's coming out fast. Oh, it looks pretty clear. So it looks like relatively new gas. I don't see any water in the gas at all. So somebody was definitely working on it. I'm guessing they put new gas in it. Thinking maybe that was an issue. But yeah, good gas flow from the petcock. So we can now take the gas tank off. Gas looks pretty good. Just take your screwdriver, make sure it's in the off position. Oh, this is all, it's stuck on there. That's stripped out in there. That's rusted on, yeah. That's pretty bad. We're gonna have to somehow maneuver the tank. Try to get that off of there. So maybe we can tilt that underneath. But usually that comes off with just a little screw. I don't know. Break it off. There we go. You should. There we go. All right, now we have access to the top end. So what's weird is that the Yamaha 660 Grizzly has one carb, but the Yamaha Raptor 660 has two carbs. Kind of interesting. But this is water cooled. We'll have to check and see if this thing has coolant in it. I noticed that the overflow reservoir, you can see, is on the low side. And there's just tin foil as a cap. As to be expected. The spark plug is way down in there. We'll have to get that out. See if we have spark. But just looking around the head and everything, making sure there's no leaking from anywhere. I don't see any signs of leaking around the head gasket right here, or the base gasket actually. Looks pretty tight. It looks like maybe the carb was leaking though. You can see the line is completely wet. And the carb is kind of wet down there. So maybe the float is stuck. Not too sure. Looks like it's been sitting for a while. Boot looks pretty good. We're going to twist that off the wire and see if there's any wire exposed. I don't see anyone. I'm not seeing any wire in there. So we're going to chop that back 1/4 inch right about here, then retwist on that boot. That was not making very good contact. Back a little bit. There we go. To somehow get to that spark plug. That's a tricky one to get to. Coming. Out comes the plug. Oh, it doesn't look horrible. No excess fuel on there. What are we running? NGK DPR7EA plug. Yeah, doesn't look bad. All right, let's hook up a battery again to it and see if we have spark. All right, let's see what we get. We have to cross the terminals in order to activate the starter to produce spark. So let's do that, see if we get anything. Ooh, they blow a fuse. That didn't sound good. Really finicky. Let's try it one more time. There we go. All right, great spark. That is awesome. All right, we're gonna take the spark plug out and quick check compression. I'm guessing this thing has a decompression mechanism, but we'll check it anyway. See what we get. Their compression tester going in. It's kind of hard to fit in there. Alright, let's see what we get. Alright, with throttle open, I looked on the manual. It should be a minimum of 165 psi for the 2005 Yamaha Grizzly. The 700s, however, are only supposed to have like 60 to 70. So let's see what we get. It should be fairly high. We're looking right in this range, right between 150 and 200 would be good. Here we go. Turn this thing on. See what we get. See if I can do throttle open while jumping the solenoid here. Oh, that's perfect. 180 psi. That's great. I was not expecting that. So compression's good. We have spark. That leaves fuel, really. This might not be that bad. Unless the crank is knocking. Since we're in here already, we're gonna check the intake valves and the exhaust valves. There's two caps for the exhaust down here. I'll show you guys later. And there's one big cover here for the intake. So let's get those out. Hopefully these don't strip out. As I almost stripped that one out. Oh. Yeah, they're kind of packed full of dirt. Yeah, those are on there. Guys out. Not seeing a ton of oil. Top end. Kind of wondering if this thing had an overheating problem. I wonder if the oil pump isn't working. There's a little oil there. Let's just turn this thing over again and see if oil comes out of there. I don't see a whole lot of oil. Oh yeah, there's some. You can see down by the cam, there's some pooling oil there, if you look close. See that? So oil is coming up through the top end. All right. Well, that checks out. Oh, those are open. We'll have to get this thing tapped at center, but first let's get the caps off for the exhaust. You can see the caps right there. For the exhaust, there's 2 of them. We're gonna get those off. See if there's oil on the cap. Yep, that's a good sign. Oil on that one. Alright, there's oil in that cap too. Alright, to get this thing to tap dead center, I believe there's a window behind this plastic here. These look like new bolts here. Alright, where's the window for it? Not seeing one. Oh, what the heck? Thought for sure there'd be one. Maybe it's underneath the pull start mechanism. There's one more down here. Yeah, there's the window. One more here. All right, now we're going to rotate the engine and see if we can find tap dead center. All right, I think it's right there. I see a mark. Yeah, it's definitely right there. Just looking here, you can see a single line. It's going to line up with the notch right there in the case. See that? And then before the single line is going to be a double line. You want to go to the single line. That's going to be top dead center. So we are in fact at top dead center. Let's see if we are in the correct rotation, which should be on the compression stroke. Let's see. You can hear the clearance between the valves, so we are on the compression stroke. Let's see about the exhaust valves. Yep, hear those clicking. Yep. All right, valve clearances for the intake are gonna be 4 to 6 thousandths, and then for the exhaust, 6 to 8. So let's check them. We're gonna go right to 5. See if that fits in. It's a little bit tight. That one's fit in. They must be set to 4. Let's try 4 thousandths. They're a little bit tight. Yeah, we're going to adjust those to 5. Get these loosened up here. Ouch. There we go. Slides right in. Alright, perfect. Then the exhaust valves will reach back there. Set to 7 thousandths. perfect. That one just grabs. This one. Oh yeah, perfect. So those are both at 7/1000s. Alright, those feel good. Well, we have good spark, we have good compression, valves are adjusted to spec. Let's start working on the carb. So luckily it's just one carb. Let's see what's going on with that. I wonder if that's really dirty. Looks like just one clamp holding that on, throttle cable, and then choke. Pull that out. Oh man. There we go. Gasoline off. First. Let's see if that's working. Alright, let's try it. Yeah, choke's working. Alright, then our throttle cable. There's gas in it. There's a lot of gas in it. Dumping out of here. There we go. It's a little stuck. See if the slide's going up and down. Alright, nothing's locked up on it. Alright, let's take a peek on the inside. Alright, let's see how much gas was in there. A lot of it already dumped out. Let's see what it looks like. Looking pretty good. Almost looks like it was leaking around the gasket area. So there's gas on this. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of crud in there, but nothing too crazy. A little bit down there. Not horrible. Let's see. Needle and float are working. Float looks good, no gas in the float. Pin looks good. Needle looks okay. Might be slight damage to the top of the needle. See that? Let's see if that shuts off the gas. Seat looks really clean in there. Yeah, that looks good. No gunk in the seat. It doesn't look horrible. 158 for the main. That's what it's running. And that is clear. Here's a little starter jet. Let's see what size that is. We are running there's no size on there. Not clear. See what the pilot jet's. Yeah. Looks like another, yeah, no size on the pilot either. But that's really clogged. Yeah, that's really, really clogged. That is heavily clogged. Is this a stock carb? But like aftermarket jets in there. I don't see any size on any of the jets except for the main jet. Let's see what that looks like. I'm guessing there's a diaphragm underneath here with a spring. Spring. Here's the diaphragm. Looks good. Actually looks really good. Little check valve ball. Moves up and down, yep. Cool. Alright, well that checks out. Last thing to check on this one is the diaphragm. Let's see if that's ripped. Looks brand new in there. That looks like a new diaphragm to me. Yeah, looks like somebody put a new diaphragm in. No rips or tears in there. Needle is on there good. Yeah, that looks perfect. Carb wasn't too bad. The only thing wrong with it was the clogged pilot jet. Now I'm kind of worried something's really seriously wrong with this machine. The carb checks out, has spark, has compression. I wonder if the crank is bad or something. Oh boy. Well, let's get this sitting in the ultrasonic cleaner. We'll come back and reassemble it. It's a little small, it looks like. Might have to let it sit like that. Alright, we got the pilot jet out of the ultrasonic cleaner. And unfortunately, you blow through it with the air compressor and it's still clogged. So we're gonna have to take our tool, our wire, and try to poke through there. Well, that went right through. All right, put a little WD-40 on there. Try to spray it through the hole. Take our wire again. This will help clean it and push all that WD-40 through the hole to clean it. And then we'll blow it out with the air compressor. Alright, that should be good. Let's see. That is clear. Alright, Carb's out of the ultrasonic cleaner. That took about 15 minutes. Now it looks pretty much brand new. Here's the bowl. That's just staining down there. And the jet's cleaned up pretty nice too. Alright, Carb's all back together, looking perfect. So let's get that back installed onto the machine. Let's take the rack off, the plastic off here, and see if there's a radiator fill cap underneath there. Well, there's definitely a mouse nest underneath there. As you can see, gotta vacuum that out. But here's the radiator fill cap right here. Let's see if there's anything in there. Oh, that's topped off. That's good. All right, so plenty of coolant in there. Looking to see if any of the wires are chewed through. I don't think there are any wires chewed through, luckily. All right, we're almost ready for the first start. Let's get the spark plug back in. All right, let's go ahead and try to fire this thing up for the first time. So we have good spark, good compression, valves were adjusted, and now the carb's cleaned out with gas going to the carb. So let's see what happens here. Hopefully it fires up. All right, here we go. Jump the solenoid. Fired right up. Holy cow. Ooh, backfired pretty good. So we might need the air box on it to run good, because it's a CV carb. But she fired right up. Huh. Sounding pretty good too. I don't see any smoke coming out either. Try it again. Choke it. Burning off something down here. I don't know if it's part of the wrap. You can see smoke coming up through there. I don't want this thing to start on fire. So something's burning off. All right, let's try to get this thing to idle. It seems like when I turn the choke off, it just cuts out and backfires. So I might be running lean without the airbox on, we'll see. Okay, it doesn't like that. Yeah, I must need that airbox on. So we're gonna put the airbox back on and try it again. All right, we've got the airbox on. Let's see what happens. Backfiring like crazy. It's definitely running lean. So with the choke on, it runs perfect. Let's run it with the choke for a sec. Yeah, something's definitely off with it. Full throttle with the choke off is actually fine. It doesn't break up, but it's like quarter throttle. So I wonder if that pilot's too small or the fuel screw adjustment is off. We never checked the fuel screw in the carb. It was underneath a little plate. So I wonder if that has to be backed out. All right, we got the carb back out. Right underneath here, you can see there is the fuel screw. So it looks like somebody tried to drill into that. Let's try to get that out. There's a little cap on there. There, it's coming. Looks like somebody already tried this. There's a little cap that screws out. All right, there's the fuel screw. So let's get to that. It should be like 2 1/4 turns out. Let's see what we're at. We're at 1, 2. Yeah, 2 1/2 turns out. That's perfect. All right. Let's see what that looks like in there. Maybe it's missing the O-ring. All right, it was missing the O-ring. And you can see it's actually a little bent. See that? The tip of it's bent. So let's bend that back if we can without breaking it. And we'll Get a new O-ring on there. No longer bent. We'll get a new O-ring on there, and then we'll set that to maybe 3 turns out. All right, we went ahead and adjusted the fuel screw to 3 turns out instead of 2.5. Let's see if that helps anything at all. So the choke is slightly on. As soon as I put the choke all the way off, it starts running bad. See that? It's really odd. So it's obviously not getting enough fuel. And it kind of looks like an aftermarket carb to me from Amazon. Huh, we might have to rejet it. It's not doing anything different with that fuel screw. I wonder if we just keep on twisting that fuel screw out, what will happen? Let's try it. All right, fuel screw turned out another turn. Let's see what happens. I just blew off the carb. What the heck? What is going on? Look at that, blew off the carb. All right, well, that's not good. All right, choke is off. It's running good right now. We went another, I think 2 turns out on the air screw. And now it's running good. Choke is fully off. Look at that. Cool. All right, so that fixed it. We're out like 6 turns on the air screw, so I'm guessing that pilot is way too small in there, even though it looked pretty big. But we're just gonna leave it like that, throw everything back together, and see if it continues to run like that, because that was perfect. Yeah, we'll see. That was running really good. That's how it should run. All right, gas tank hooked up. Let's see if it continues to run good.
choke is off. Aha! There we go. I like that. That's a lot better. Before the fan was coming on, it was overheating. I think that's why they wrapped the exhaust. It was running really lean. So my guess is aftermarket carb jetted incorrectly. That sounds really good now. Oh yeah, so we can put everything back together and then we can take this thing for a test drive. Yeah, he must have thrown an aftermarket carb on there and you know, it wouldn't run right. It was running lean with no choke, and then they wrapped the exhaust thinking it was overheating, and then the fan was coming on. Yeah, it was definitely overheating. So I think that was the problem all along. Too small of a pilot. But we'll probably order up a 45 pilot for it and try that. You know, maybe the passageways in the carb are just too small. I don't know. But I know a lot of people have problems with these aftermarket carbs. All right, gas tank back on. Everything's back on here. Sounds pretty good. Nice consistent throttle. Good throttle response. Doesn't kick back. Oh yeah, I'd say that's fixed. All right, let's get this old battery out and replaced. Now we're going to check it right here. That's the fill. You want to take that one out first, always. Alright, that's coming. Wasn't on there too bad. Usually those are really stuck. So this should have fluid right at the thread marks. So it should just pour right out of here. Let's see what we get. Yep. Well, that was perfect. Alright, front diff is right there. Alright, I think we got this thing broken free. Again, this one should be up to the thread marks. We'll see where we're at. Oh yeah. If you guys look in there, it's completely filled up. Perfect. Well, this thing's pretty much all ready for the first test drive. The only thing we didn't fix was the front brake, which that looks like it's completely unfixable. It's completely locked up. So you probably need a new master. I'm guessing all the lines are crusty. So new master cylinder, new brake lines. May as well add that to the list. At least we have a working brake though, so that's good. But we'll leave that for now. That looks like it's gonna open a can of worms I really don't want to open. All right, who thinks this thing's gonna move? Hopefully it does. I can't believe it, but this thing actually runs really good. Zero issues with it. Goes into reverse, low, high, goes full speed, has good power. So I think this one's fixed. We are going to check the oil, make sure that the coolant isn't mixing with it. And then I think this one's pretty much done. All right, last check here. Let's see if the oil looks good here. After the first ride. Because it looked like brand new oil. Yeah, it looks perfect. Alright, let's check the level. Right up to the top line there. Perfect. Well, this one turned out pretty darn good. I thought for sure, because so many mechanics worked on it, that it would be a tricky one to diagnose, but it wasn't too bad. You know, I've worked on these before, so I kind of knew what to look for. But, you know, the solenoid was the main problem. This machine wouldn't turn on because the attachments in the solenoid were pulled out. So if those aren't connected, you're not going to have anything turn on. And that was the main problem. The other problem was the carb. I'm guessing somebody at some point put an aftermarket carb on here, or put new jets in and jetted it wrong. So that caused it to run lean and just die at throttle. So without the choke, this thing would not run at all. So we backed out the fuel screw to 6 turns, and now it runs perfectly. So that tells me that the pilot was way too small. So I have no idea what pilot's in there. It wasn't marked, and that's why I'm guessing it was a cheap Amazon carb. But we're gonna put the stock 45 back in there and see if that fixes the problem. Then we'll do the fuel screw to like 2.5 turns out, where it should be. But yeah, it definitely was not getting enough gas, which caused this thing to overheat. And yeah, as you can see, I think it constantly had problems overheating. So I'm guessing the guy ran it with the choke on, tried to run it with the choke off, and then this thing would just overheat, backfire. You know, at one point it blew off the carb, so that tells you it's running really, really lean. But yeah, those were the 2 main problems, and we fixed those relatively easily, so I wasn't too mad about that. It took a while to figure out the carb setting, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. Front diff, rear diff looks good, oil looks good, coolant was filled up all the way, tires are decent, transmission feels good, shifts into low, high, neutral, just fine. And then we have one brake, the rear brake working, and then this brake does not work. And I looked up on Amazon, a new brake master cylinder is $14, a new solenoid is $11, new air filter is $15, so parts are really, really cheap for this thing. So we're probably gonna order up all those parts along with a new seat cover. And this will be a really pretty nice machine for $500. Not bad. I'm happy I took the risk and bought this thing when nobody else would. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. On this one, it actually did. So hopefully you guys enjoyed picking up this 2005 Yamaha Grizzly 660, diagnosing it, doing the first start, and then the first ride. Definitely a good feeling getting this one up and running. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.